Hello, hello, everyone. I
Hi.
know you guys. Go ahead, Ash.
Hi.
Uh, Ashley, she's already crazy. So we know you guys have been asking for it. We are back with
We're
another
back
Bikini in the Brain, and we are doing this one on the interwebs.
over the interwebs. Oh my gosh, we're like 2 states apart, Adam. What the heck?
I know we're going through withdrawals because I haven't seen her in a little while. So we're like, okay, we got to get one out. So we're doing it online. So hopefully this will solve the issue with us not being able, running out of podcasts. But
Yes.
we have an amazing podcast for you today. As always, you know what they call like in this episode thing, they call like I'm the brain in the bikini in the brain, but Ashley's really like the brain.
No. My brain is like my butt, okay?
It's
It's
huge.
it's like it thinks for itself and
And it's but
yeah, exactly.
so if there's a little bit of roughness, we can't like look at each other as normal and be like, hey, you go. Okay, no, you go. So, so
Like I can't give you that thumbs up or anything.
yeah,
It's weird. And sorry if I sound weird, guys. It's because I'm over the phone. But yeah, we apologize for the little delay. There was a lot of crazy, awesome events happening, which kind of prohibited us from making some podcasts. So there's a little gap. I know that Adam had nationals, which went very well for him. And I'll let you kind of give the good news about that. And then, of course, the holidays, Thanksgiving, my birthday, kind of all
yeah,
just left us a little too busy to find any time to get together to do the podcast. So we apologize, but we are going to make it up to you.
yeah. We're gonna keep it going hard. And Ashley is the brain in this because she thinks these things through so well and sends me like, hey, this is a good. Here's some options that we could do. So she came up with a good one, perfect for the holidays, but also perfect for the year and like the off season. And it is staying
Mm-hmm.
on track. Keys to staying on
Yes,
track. Which
very important.
yeah, I'm huge. I'm huge about staying on track. And honestly, I think you can attribute a lot of Ashley's success to her career in as in always being in shape. You know, she competes a lot because she loves to compete a lot, but it also
Mm-hmm.
she competes a lot because it keeps her on track. Like it keeps her
Yes.
from going out of, going too crazy in contests. And so you guys have all seen it with people rebounding after shows and going crazy, gaining 20 pounds in just a couple weeks after shows, things like that. So we're going to give you some tips to get through the holidays, but also
Mm-hmm.
to get through your show to show and just some general advice on like how that makes sense. And actually, there's a part of it we could talk about a little bit of some new research that's come out, which is really cool to help you.
Ooh, the new research.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And I know that you guys might not be listening to this around the holidays, but like Adam said, this can be applied to after a show or any event, like maybe even going on vacation and you want to stay on track, or maybe you have a family reunion and a barbecue and you want to stay on track because it's going to be a day of temptations and treats. But we're going to help you through it because we're going to tell you our tips and best ways to go about staying on track during these times.
So yeah, going into this, Ashley, now what has been your like what do you attribute your staying on track so much to? Like how is it you've been able to mentally do that throughout the years? Because I get a ton of competitors and I especially get this is one of the things that drives me the craziest. I get a lot of like I mean to say I'll get like a lot of names too, like bigger names that
Mm-hmm.
are bikini pros or whatever, and maybe they've competed for like 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, whatever, and they don't stay on track like you do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's so rare. You know, and everyone out there is like, oh, they're a
Right.
pro and they're always the best. They're always so on it, and it's just so common that a pro and amateur, whatever. Even though the pros,
Mm-hmm.
you would think, oh, they're 100% on plan all the time. They're always super diligent. Like they're just as
Uh-huh.
bad as amateurs, if not worse, especially after they put in some years. And
Yeah.
how have you been able to do that? Like
Mm-hmm.
the more pros I work with, the more astounded I am that you're able to just do this for so
Oh,
long. Like for real.
shucks. Well, you know something, Adam? I mean, gosh, I think it was a little bit different, back about 3 or 4 years ago. We didn't have the Adam Bonillas telling us otherwise, but there was kind of a different mindset in bikini. Like back then, it's like we all kind of have this idea like off season means like, putting on weight so you can put on some muscle, right? Like that
Yeah.
was everyone's mindset. It seemed like nobody uh really stayed lean all year round. But, you know, after you became my coach and after being in the game a little bit, I realized, you know, something, it's really not worth it to go so far off track, because the farther you get off track, the harder it becomes to prep. And in bikini, you really don't need to bulk. You know, even if you're lacking a muscle and you feel like you need to put on muscle in the off season, like straight up bulking or like purposely putting on a large amount of fat isn't the answer, and it can do more harm than good. You know, can mess up your metabolism and just make it harder for you in general. So I think it's kind of like, you know, I'm older and wiser, and now it's like I want to treat my body right. Like I worked so hard to get my body to look a certain way. So hard. I just don't want to throw it away. You know, I do not want to throw it away by having a horrible off season, putting on all this weight, because if you guys followed my story, I did take a year off at one point and I got up to 145, which I know it's not like a super heavy number. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's not even heavy, but for what I weigh now and what I'm supposed to look like on stage, it was quite a bit away. And that was kind of like my big learning lesson. Like, oh, that's never going to happen again. Like ever since I realized how hard it is to, you know, lose about 25 pounds, I'm like, oh, nope, never, ever again. It was so tough.
Yeah. And though it's not a lot of weight for you, it's a pretty large percentage of your weight. Because you figure if you're, you know, if you're 120 on stage, which is pretty standard for you, that is, you know, 12 pounds would be 10%. So you're talking 20% of your weight. So when it gets into that 20% marker, yeah, it becomes really taxing. Mm-hmm. What people don't understand, what people don't understand too about the whole bulking thing is there has never been, and I always tell people this when they want to talk about bulking, there's never been 1 more ounce of muscle gained because of 1 more ounce of fat gained. It doesn't work that way. So you'll gain muscle without gaining any fat, the same amount as you would if you gained fat. Now the difference is the net weight, the net muscle is what's important. So let's say Ashley went up to 145 because she was bulking and she did it on purpose and she was trying to get all this muscle. Well, in the end, she's gonna, let's say she gained, because she hit a perfect caloric surplus every day and there was no like keeping it lean, you know, yeah, she might end up with more muscle because every single day she hit a surplus. So there is that benefit to it. But the problem is that the more weight you have to lose, the more muscle you have to lose along with that weight. So if Ashley gained, let's say, to keep it simple, let's say she gained 5 pounds of pure lean mass while lean bulking, but gained 6 pounds of lean mass while dirty bulking, but had to lose 10 pounds
dirty bulk.
She would lose probably, she would probably only have 4 to 3 of those pounds because she'd lose so much of that new muscle with that cut. And that's just how it is. The longer you cut, the more lean mass you're going to lose. Nobody keeps every ounce of lean mass during a cut. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you cut, no matter what you take, you're going to lose some lean mass. So there's a couple freak shows out there that, like Kevin Levroni's, that you can see in people like grow during cuts, but that's a rare breed. So it's pretty unlikely. So it's, you know, going back into the topic of like staying on plan and why it's so important. We kind of covered that now. And Ashley obviously talked about her reasons staying lean and how much easier it is for her. Even now, it's still not easy. It's still pretty hard for her to get to that lean level.
Yes, it is. Yep. But it would be so much harder if I had 10 more pounds on me. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Like, whew, if I ever put on that amount of weight again, as I did in 2017, I'd be like, you know what? I just can't anymore. So yeah, I know not to do that now. And you're a good coach for directing me in the right direction and explaining it to all of us. Because like I said, people like you, that kind of mindset did not exist like back in like 2013 and 14 when I was first getting into it. So I like fell victim of like that, you know, oh, I have to put on fat to put on muscle. You know, I was just in that mindset, like, oh, I gotta eat. I'm not hungry, but I gotta eat. Gotta put on that muscle and fat. Yeah. But you know,
it's crazy how much things have changed since then too. So luckily, if you're like just getting started in bikini within the last 3 years, like you have no idea what we all like went through. Like internet people and like YouTube diet tips and things like that, like just didn't exist, It was just like, everyone's just kind of figuring it out from the local gym guy. So yeah, it's cool that you guys have this faster learning curve too. So now let's talk about, the holidays, and inevitably people are going to go off their diet to some degree. So, what happens then? Like, what do you do when you mess up your diet? So I guess one of the things that people do a lot of times that I see when they mess up on their diet is they like try to over cardio and overcompensate.
Oh yes. You got it. I would suggest, hey, if you cheated and you can't reverse it, make it a lift day next day. Like, I would say that's a better way to use the calories. Get a good pump, like make it leg day. It's hard to counteract it with cardio, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of detrimental too at the same time. So I'm going to go over a study with you guys in a second, which is really cool. Kind of offsets this a little bit, which is it actually, if you go back, like, which is kind of cool to see too. And I keep my like videos and stuff up that I know where I'm wrong in too, which is kind of fun because like I probably said something along the lines of don't do what I'm about to say, but as research keeps coming out, it changes all the time. So what was right 4 years ago, whatever, is now, or what was wrong 4 years ago is now wrong. So it's kind of cool how it's evolving. And there's a study done that I'll talk about in a second. But when you're trying to do like out cardio your diet that you just had, one of the things that we need to take into account with bodybuilding is that bodybuilding in its simplest form, I want to explain it in its simplest form. So bodybuilding, you create a stimulus. You can create a stimulus through anything, through like when it's cutting, you can create a stimulus through exercise. You can create a caloric deficit. You can create more of a caloric deficit through energy expenditure, like cardio. You can raise your metabolism through cardio by doing HIIT cardio. So all of these things are basically like a tool that you would use to get to the next progression in your physique. So the way I like to simplify it is I say, okay, bodybuilding is simple as you create a stimulus by doing something, and then you adapt to that stimulus, and everywhere in between that adaptation window is results. That's when results are happening. But every time you adapt, then the results have stopped. Every time you kind of hit that little marker plateau. So what you have to think about is these things we call like settings. I call them settings, which is essentially like, hey, my body is used to this much. And for example, if a marathon runner came into my office and was like, I want to do a show, and I will say, okay, where are your cardio settings at? They're like, well, I do marathon all the time. I run all the time. Well, it's going to be really hard to create a stimulus through cardio for that person because their settings are so high and they're so used to doing so much cardio that it's not going to do that much for them. And it's not going to create that stimulus because the body's going to recognize it as just, hey, this is just normal to me. It's like you and me walking around. It's just a normal activity at this point. So the more you try to make up for things and the farther you push your diet down, the more used to that your body's going to get, and the harder it's going to be for you to create a stimulus because that's your new setting. So I would never recommend just like outworking things and just outworking it, but there's a better way to do these things. I don't know if you have, what your thoughts are on that, Ashley.
There's better way to do things. Something, Adam, gosh, I just wish you were around all the times I cheated back in 2013 on my diet, telling me what's up. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, it doesn't happen often because I do have like good self-control and I know how to handle these situations, but gosh, I would just totally kill it in the gym, like do like stuff that I haven't been doing just to, shock the body. And I think leg day is the best for that. Personally, I get the sorest when I do leg day. So I just figure, got to put those carbs, those calories to good use, get some leg day action going on, lift heavy.
Yeah.
Because I usually don't lift that heavy, so it'd be nice to switch it up if I were to cheat.
Yeah. And that's what, it's funny is that when we talk about like creating a stimulus, like when we go hard together and we do all these drop sets and lift heavy, you always get like that week, you always get like crazy results. So
yes,
that's an example of that, like creating a stimulus. Now, one of those actually like a really famous coach out there too. And he says, the best day to have a cheat day, like usually people will work out really hard and then have a cheat meal. But he was saying that it's actually better utilized to have a cheat meal before you work out. So if that's an option for you guys too, like maybe during Christmas or whatever, if you have a gym when you want to go kill it like 3 hours after you eat or something like that, like you can put those calories right to use and have like an awesome workout. But let's say that's not an option. Okay, this is going to be a really cool tool. And if you guys watch on Instagram, I posted this thing about Thanksgiving meals and how you can manage and still have a Thanksgiving meal on that day by combining meals, which is one way around it. So if you're on a meal plan and you're trying to be super structured, like on Christmas Day, what you could do, or for your birthday or whatever, what you could do is you can eat, maybe 1 or 2 of your meals instead of your normal 6, and then you can have all 4 of your meals combined into one. And that's a lot of calories, and it won't change your results for that day. People think you have to eat 6 times a day. You don't. It's not going to change at all. So it's really your option on how you want to eat. Now, here's another thing that happens. So let's say you messed up really bad and you like feeling guilty. Now, this isn't really, I don't know if based on the research, I wouldn't say it. I would say it works really well, but I guess I can't really say I recommend it because I haven't worked with it too much, but I have started doing it recently. And I'm still working on on a group of people where I can kind of see the results with it. But what's really cool is there's a study done on 2 different groups of people. And these 2 different groups, one was in a straight caloric deficit, like a regular calorie deficit. And then one was on a calorie cycle. So basically they were on the same caloric deficit for like 5 days of the week. And then one day of the week, they had really high calories, not super high, but like maintenance calories. And then one they had really, really low calories, like really low calories. Like in the study, it was like 500 calories. It was crazy low. And I never recommend that. But they did this to test it and test like what the metabolic rates were at the end of the dieting. And the people who had the a higher calorie meal with the low calorie meal actually had a better resting metabolic rate. Not by much, but it just showed that, hey, in the scenario where if you wanted to do it that way, and you wanted to have like a really low day of calories and a really high day of calories, it actually doesn't slow down your metabolism like we thought it did. So what I've been telling people is that, you know what, based on this study, if you're on Christmas Day and you have extra calories like you wanted to, and you want to have a hard diet day the next day, it actually has shown to not hurt you, which is new. That's not something that before we'd say, no, you never want to go that low because it's dangerous to go that low. You need, like they say, doctor supervision after you're under 1,100 calories. Like there's a whole bunch of things that they talk about low calories. But in this scenario and in that study, it showed that it was actually beneficial to the point where they lost a little bit more body fat and had a little bit higher of a resting metabolic rate. Nothing super significant, but significant enough where their metabolism wasn't adapting like we thought it would with those low calories. So that's an option too, which is really cool. I think anytime you mess up, if you want to do that once in a while. I wouldn't recommend it like, every 3 days or anything like that. But if it's a great option for you, it'll help relieve some stress. Because I think honestly, like with me at least, I don't know about with you, Ash, but with me, when I eat bad, when I have like a meal that's bad, I don't even really I don't get to enjoy the meal that much. I've been dieting for so long, but I don't enjoy the meal that much. I enjoy the taste a lot because when I'm towards the end, I start feeling guilty about the meal. And then like after the meal, like the next day, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have eaten that. Why did I do that? And it's just like beats me up. I don't know. Do you do that? Do you feel that? Yeah.
Oh, yes, totally. And that's like the competitor mind. It's like, well, we will forever think this way because like, I don't know, whenever it's like engraved in us now, like the whole, like, oh, if I eat something bad and I know it's bad, I will feel like a sense of guilt, or like, it's kind of like I'm really familiar with nutrition labels without even looking at them because I've memorized them. It's like crazy. It's like, I can never think of things the same way. Like if I'm looking at like a Diet Coke and a Coke and somebody gets a Coke, I'm like, why are you getting just a regular Coke and you just get a Diet Coke? Like I'm just, yeah, it blows my mind how I think now. It's not a bad thing, but it's just like I'm super aware of like sugar and calories.
That's so funny. The Coke one gets me every time. I can't even like if I'm at like the movie theater or something, like if I go to the movie theater with Anya, I like spend like an extra like $20-$30 just because she gets all this junk, But I'll get a drink, and then it'll be someone filling up like a big, those big movie cups of like regular Coke. And I'm like right next to it, but I'm just like, it kills me not to say, why don't you just do diet, bro? Like, it's just,
right? You're like, you're thinking to yourself, in that thing, there is 100 grams of sugar, straight sugar. Like, yeah, I have that same feeling.
But the like cheating thing really weighs on me for like a whole day. Like it'll be like the next day, I'll be like, before I would never cut my calories before. because I would never make up for it that way, because it would kind of, what we thought was it would make your metabolism adapt too fast if you cut your calories too low. But now, like when I'm beating myself up about it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that pizza. But I'll like just have a low calorie day the next day and kind of maybe and make sure I go to the gym and use those calories, and I'll have kind of a makeup for it, which is kind of cool. And before, I would think that I would never do that. I would never think to do that. And now I can now go into a Christmas with a little bit less stress and know, hey, I'm just gonna eat today but die tomorrow type of thing. Hello? I think we lost an Ashley. Hold on one second, guys. We might have lost an Ashley. So at this point, we are on online. And so we've never done it this before. And I think we're losing Ashley a little bit.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're there? Oh, you came back.
Sorry, I think I might have pressed mute by just swiping the thing. I was trying to see the time, but okay, we're back. Yeah. Sorry, I'm here. I don't know what last you heard of me, but I'm here.
You were just gone for a second. So that's funny. I saw a little thing pop up too. So now I know, guys, we're in our process of trying to do this weekly. So there's no way I can see her every week. It's just hard. All right, so going back to that. Now, you had a couple insight on it.
Yes.
Like another thing you had was like one of your questions was getting in the exercise when you're away from home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any tips on that?
My gosh. Well, there are home workouts. I know that you're not a big fan of them, but they are better than nothing whenever, like, let's say somebody lives in Ohio and the gym is closed because it's Christmas Eve and they can't go outside because it's snowy. But home workouts are great. You can YouTube them. Bands, if anything, you can use bands. They really seem to be helpful. And of course, it's not going to be the best workout. It's not going to be so intense. But again, it's better than nothing. And, I would say just if you're in a place where you do have access to a gym, get it done early. If you're on vacation, get it out of the way, but keep a consistent routine. Don't just let it all go just because you're away. I mean, of course, they don't have to be as intense, but I think it's like good for you, even just here's my example. Sometimes cardio is great for me, not only because I'm getting a workout and burning calories, but sometimes it's kind of like I'm super aware whenever I do cardio. I'm like, okay, this is going to set the whole day. Does that make sense? So I'm like in the mindset of like, I did cardio, I'm eating healthy the entire day. It kind of sets the tone, if that makes sense. So although your workouts might not be super duper intense, going so heavy whenever you're away from home on vacation or whatever it may be, it's kind of like the mindset, like, okay, I'm in a healthy mindset. I'm going to finish the day healthy. I'm going to do my best to stay on track kind of attitude.
Yeah. And along with that, I think that's one of the mentalities that you have to have when you're traveling is, it's okay to not get results for a week. It's not going to hurt you that bad on the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But it will hurt you to go the other way too far. So if you can go into vacation just being like, you know what, I just want to be the same when I get back. I don't want to be improved. I don't want to be worse. I just want to be the same so I don't lose a week. Then you'll be fine. The people who pay for it the most, when I have clients, is people who travel for, they'll travel for like a week or two, whatever. But then they just kind of like throw it all out the window for that week.
Yeah. It's a habit.
Yeah. And then they lose that week where there's no progress, but then they lose the next 3 to 4 weeks just to get back to where they were before they went on vacation. So now you have, 4 to 5 weeks of combined time with that week that you didn't get results while you're on vacation of no progress. So now you have 5 weeks of just getting back to where you were when you started. But what people don't understand is you also have, when you're trying to diet back down to where you were, you also have 5 more weeks of an adapted metabolism and more adapted to the stimulus. So now you're progressing farther in your training program without getting any further results than when you started your vacation. And then that's what catches up to people, because then they don't get to the results because they run out of room with progressions in their workouts. So that's one of the things that happens. So a lot of times when you have people who travel, they'll travel pretty frequently too, like every couple months, 3 months. And then when they're doing that every 5-6 weeks, they're realizing, they're like, why am I not getting results? I'm like, well, every 3 months, you're setting yourself back 5 weeks. So
Right.
the home workouts that Ashley's talking about, the doing it at your house or with your, there's usually, honestly, unless you're really just trying to make excuses, there's a way to do it. Like even push-ups, crunches, and lunges with five. I mean, I was at a place once where there was absolutely nowhere to lift weights, and I found 2 dining chairs, and I did my whole workout with 2 dining chairs. They weighed back, they weighed like 20 pounds each, and and I just grabbed them from the seat cushion part, like on the backrest, and I did shoulder presses and I did lateral raises.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, you know what? It was totally doable. Like it's totally up to you if you want to do it or not. I've done lunges with throwing things in a backpack and doing lunges like that and squats like that. So it's definitely so it's really up to you. And if you do anything like single legged, that makes things a lot easier. So if you're doing, there's nothing there and you want to do like single leg hip thrust, like with your, that's going to be enough weight to get something, so there's always a way. It's just a matter of if you want to do it or not. And then cardio is always available. If it's cold outside and you can't run, well, you could do jump rope inside, and all you need is a rope to do that. You don't even need a rope. You can do fake jump rope, imaginary jump rope.
That's awesome.
They do that. Yes. I do this like kickboxing class once in a while, and they always do the imaginary jump rope.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of such a thing. I've only heard of the imaginary guitar or the invisible guitar.
You'd blow their minds if you brought that out on stage, the imaginary jump rope.
Oh, yes.
Like this man's imagination is crazy.
Oh, gosh. That's
all right.
funny. So
one of the things I think, which is really cool to have like you giving advice is, people have such a hard time with traveling, and a lot of people are going to be traveling for the holidays. But when you're in the position that you're in and the position that you were in too, when you were, for Miss Olympia bikini for three years in a row, I mean, that schedule was insane. I remember like, and then you kept winning with that schedule too. And now even your schedule's still a little crazy. But I think things are more like social media now. So it's not like people don't travel as much because everything's like done through social media. Before it was like places. But but how did you, like, you're the perfect example, perfect person to give advice for people traveling, getting results. How did you do it? Because you went to different countries. Like, how did you get your food? Because you go to different countries before the Olympia. It was crazy. Like, you see Phil Heath and stuff, and he doesn't leave his basement for like 5 months before the Olympics. He just stays in Colorado. That's it. So how did you do it?
Okay. So, anytime I would travel, I would kind of do my research ahead of time. So I'd see what hotel I'm staying at, what gyms are nearby. And sometimes like the promoters and stuff had like a gym for like the training itself. And even like I met you on one of my trips as well. So it's nice to meet up with the training buddy too. But something, as competitors, I think we have this habit of like eating like when we don't really need to. So like if you're in the habit of eating 6 meals a day and you're not burning those calories because you're sitting on a plane, right? If you're sitting on a plane to Spain and it's 15 hours, I'm not burning as much calories as if I were up and about walking around. So I would only eat when I'm hungry. I still to this day, I don't want to like force feed myself, just because I'm in this habit of like, oh, I got to eat 6 meals a day. Oh, you know what I mean? If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And it all worked out, I'm sure, anyway, because the plain food, you don't necessarily know how much calories is in it. And of course, I would refrain from that kind of stuff anyway if I was super close to Olympia. But I'm just giving an example. And guys, just do your research ahead of time. I brought as much non-perishable, healthy foods that I could possibly bring. And, I searched out the grocery stores, which is, that's the funnest thing when you go to another country, is going into their grocery stores and seeing what foods they have, like that you don't have in America. It's so cool. I love to do that. But yeah, that was just like an example. And I would just, meet up with people to train. And I thought that was so much fun.
That's cool. That's actually really, really funny. One of the things that probably like maybe a lot of the competitors can relate with, but it's like, especially at the pro level, it's so funny. These competitors, like I have a lot of bikini girls will come and they like stay at my house for like a week when they're training out here or whatever. And all they want to do is go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or something. It's it's so consistent.
Yes.
It's funny.
Like I can't see Adam does the app where it ships to you, and that blows my mind. It ruins all the fun. What's it, Instacart?
Yeah.
You use? Yeah, I'm not down with that. I want to go and buy it and see everything. That's that's like the funnest thing to me. I love it. It's my favorite pastimes for shopping.
Yeah, every time I only go to the grocery store when I'm with Ashley. I literally don't go any other time in my life. Or then if you go to the grocery store with Ashley, especially, so it's so funny. Ashley is like the fanciest non-fancy girl you'll ever meet. Or then she, like, you think you see her and she's so well put together and you think she's so fancy, but like she's a sucker for a discount. Like she won't.
Oh yes, yes.
She won't pass
the clearance shelf.
the clearance shelf. If you're with Ashley and you see a good stocked clearance shelf, just keep walking because she's gonna be there for 40 minutes.
I know, I gotta look at everything. I might find a hidden treasure in there.
She'll find so much crazy stuff. She finds the coolest things too. But it's funny because Danny Phelps and Breon Ansley were out here too at one point, and I was like, "You guys want to go anywhere, whatever?" They're like, "Just to Whole Foods," and they were there for 2 hours twice. They're here for like 4 days, and I was like, "You guys, it's like that's all we like doing is going to Whole Foods."
Oh my gosh, so I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah. So, but I get some cool spices because of it, because of you.
Oh right. Yeah.
So, as far as what else do you want to add to this, Ashley?
Yes, I have some great tips, for the day of an event that, you're going to be eating, you're going to be with family, your friends, whether it be Christmas, a reunion of somebody's birthday party. It's just like an event that you're going to eat at. You don't want to bring your chicken and asparagus, you're going to eat that day. I do have a few tips for anyone out there that is planning on one of those events. And my first tip is before you have dinner, get your workout in, get it over with so you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Secondly, make sure you have drink a few glasses of water before you start eating dinner. Okay. Because a lot of times we think we're so hungry, but we're just kind of thirsty. And when you drink the water, that's going to take up some space in your stomach and kind of it won't allow you to overeat as much. My next tip would be for you to eat the vegetables first at dinner, okay? I know it sounds boring, but eat your broccoli, eat your asparagus first so you can fill up a little bit on the vegetables, move on to the protein, move on to the carbs, and then maybe dessert. I think that's super important as well, because I think a lot of people go to the dessert first and they might have a little bit more than they should because it's the first thing. They're the hungriest at the point where they start eating and consume a little bit too much of that. So I don't know. That's how I do it. I always do it in that order. I do veggies, protein, carbs, and then like a dessert or fat. And then my next tip is for those of you who are going to events where there might be alcohol. I'm not going to be like a party pooper and tell you not to drink alcohol. And of course, I don't promote it. But if you are going to have an adult beverage, I would suggest that if you're drinking wine, make sure it's a dry wine. So that means less sugar. And this is something I always used to do as well. I'm personally like a vodka kind of person. So I would always order just a plain vodka water. And I would bring my own little Crystal Light squirty thingy so that I can just squirt that in there into my drink. So it's kind of like a better alternative to like a vodka cranberry or any kind of mixed drink. And in my opinion, it tastes a lot better. And then another tip I have for you guys is if there's going to be leftovers, try to give them away first. Don't keep them in your fridge, because I feel like if these leftovers kind of linger in your fridge, you're just going to be eating them throughout the week, okay? So either give them away or put them in your freezer and then slowly bring them out, in a more reasonable manner, okay? Maybe like, okay, this week I'm going to bring out the mashed potatoes or whatever it may be. Don't try to save all the food in the fridge at once and then just nibble on it, because that's a big mistake I used to do. Oh, there's leftovers. Well, it's here. I might as well just have a little piece and a little piece there. And then next thing you know, you've eaten the whole thing. So either get rid of the leftovers or freeze them. And then my final tip, we kind of touched on it, is like the next day when you know you've overeaten a little bit, I would suggest getting a good heavy leg workout, something to get you really sore. I think kind of if you try to counteract it with cardio, that's a lot harder to do. I guess just put the calories to good use, get that pump, get a little carbolicious pump going on, or whatever may cause the stimulus, as you mentioned. But yeah, those are my tips for eating some good dinner.
You know what? That Mio water flavoring one was a really good one. You know, I don't drink, but that is I never even heard of anyone doing that. So that's a really cool tip.
Yeah.
The other tip that I would give, she talked about eating vegetables, but eating the vegetables throughout the day before you have your dinner is a great one too.
Yes.
You know, people talk about like negative calorie foods and stuff like that, with like celery being like the main negative calorie food. People, you ever heard of that saying, like, if you eat celery, actually less calories? Now that's not true. There's not like a negative calorie food, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close to neutral. So like, the calories in celery, they actually tested that, and it was like out of 16, it was like 16 calories or something. Only like 2 of them actually made it through past the digestion and whatnot. So it's really, really close to like calorie neutral. So those they take up space. You know, if you can snack on. A good tip is like finding foods that you can snack on that taste really good before you have dinner. So like they have a lot of things like called Walden Farms dressings. If you guys haven't heard about it. Yeah.
I have the individual packs, the portable packs. Those are nice.
That's right. You got all these tips. The Walden Farms like dressings, if you have that with like you dip for dip. So if you have like celery with that for dip, or you have broccoli like that for dip, by the time you get to dinner, you're not even that hungry, but you don't feel like you missed out because you're kind of snacking on that versus the other treats that are, 100 calories a pop. So so you have that. And then, I'm a real fan. I'm a fan of eating like healthy foods all the time. But I do understand that people need those other foods here and there. The thing is, like, a lot of like macro people don't fully get it, but like they're like, a calorie is a calorie, right? But the matter is, when it comes down to the calorie in your system, a calorie is a calorie for the most part. But when it's getting to the system and getting past digestion, a calorie is not a calorie. It's a little bit different. Like 100 calories from, let's say, like something purely sugary and that's really easily digested, like you might get 90 of those calories to pass the digestion system, maybe 95. If it's like a drink, it could be like 100. It could be so many of those calories. So you'll get all those calories in the system. But if you're eating like really clean foods and really like the broccoli, so like 100 calories of broccoli, and everyone goes like 100 calories from broccoli is the same as 100 calories from pizza. Well, it's not, because 100 calories from broccoli truly is going to be like 70 or 60 or so calories from the broccoli will actually get into the system, because the digestion is so hard that it takes so many of the calories to actually digest it. And the calories from the pizza, well, that's a lot easier to digest. So you might get 90 of those calories. So it's not just calories in the back of the label. It's calories, how they process. It's something called thermic effective food. So without going too crazy with these things, if you can stack on the vegetables and get some of your calories in from there and just fill up your stomach and drink a lot of water, it's going to help you a lot with feeling like you were part of the celebration. And then, of course, the rest of the tips will be really helpful too. If you do overeat, dieting the next day, if you want to combine your meals, we talked about that. And I think that's pretty much it. That could get you through.
Yes. Oh, and one last tip. This is something I always do if I'm going out to eat as well. Once I've finished my meal, I either brush my teeth or chew a piece of gum, because that quickly eliminates the want for more food. Because a lot of times our mouth eats a lot faster than what our stomach really wants, if that makes sense. We enjoy the taste, so we keep eating and eating, although we might have been full. So I think that by chewing a piece of gum or brushing our teeth, we'll take that craving out of our mouth. And once you have something minty in your mouth, you're like, no, I don't want biscuits anymore. You know what I mean? So I think that's a very helpful tip as well.
Ashley, you are a plethora of information. I would have there's 2 things today I haven't heard of: the Mia water flavoring and then eating gum after that. You're right.
You didn't notice that when we would go out to eat, and I'd always say, do you want a piece of gum? I always have gum, but I always chewed after.
You always floss after that's crazy. crazy about her. Like, I'm actually really crazy about my teeth. Like, in the morning, at night, I floss, everything. Everyone's always like, you're so crazy about your teeth. Ashley, like, is the craziest about her teeth. Every meal she flosses, she's like the
Yeah.
perfect student for a dentist. Every meal she flosses and every meal she has like gum or something. But I never connected the dots. It was because of that. I just thought because you have beautiful teeth that you want to take care of them. So
Oh, well, thank you.
well, I guess you have beautiful teeth because you take care of them so well.
Well,
So
and I paid about $10,000 for them as well. But
I wasn't,
that's another topic.
I
That's
wasn't
another
gonna,
topic.
I wasn't gonna expose that, but okay.
Yes, I have veneers, guys, in case you guys didn't catch on. I have veneers. But even with veneers, like, I hate that feeling of food stuck in my mouth. And I hate that, like, I like clean mouth. Like, I don't want to have bad breath or anything like that. But if I don't have floss, I'll be doing this, like, with my teeth all day until I get some floss. Like, I hate anything in my teeth. It, like, drives me crazy.
You guys want to know a funny story about me? I was gonna get veneers too, and I scheduled it. I was telling Ashley and everything. I was like, I'm doing it, and then like the day came, and I like backed out of the appointment because I got so scared.
Oh, I feel bad. No, I told you like what happened to me, and like you chickened out. I feel bad. You should go for it if you want, but you don't need it. But I mean, if you want to, you can. I think I'm honestly, like, I'm very resilient to Novocaine, which is what they use to numb your mouth, in case you guys didn't know. Like, it takes a lot of Novocaine for me to feel numb. And I think that's why I had such a bad experience with it. But yeah, I mean, I'm just weird.
One day, if you guys see me with this very improved bright teeth, you know what happened. So, but until that day goes, I think this is it for today. There's nothing else, yeah, Ashley?
Yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys survive the holidays and come back with a nice crispy 6-pack of
Yes.
rolls. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not trying to put that pressure on you guys. Just enjoy your time with your friends and family, and just don't go too crazy. Don't have any regrets, but don't have that feeling of guilt afterwards either. So it's about balance.
Okay, guys. So with that, we should have some more consistencies now. We figured out this podcast. So thanks for dealing with us through our trying to figure this out. And keep those questions coming to us.
Yes.
We want to keep this going. So share this with your friends if you found this helpful. We really would appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to us through DM on Instagram at Ashley K Fit or at Team Elite Physique. And we always use your suggestions. And we thank you guys so much for listening to Lil Ol Us. And that's it. We'll talk. We'll talk to you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.